We've been gearing up for Aligned 17, which is a virtual conference dedicated to sales and marketing alignment. It's happening May 22nd through the 26th, and we wanted to do something special for B2B Growth listeners. Leading up to the event, we'll be giving you early access to some of the Aligned 17 sessions. Today's episode is exactly that. So if you like today's interview, head over to aligned17.com and sign up to access every session of the event. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers, including Gary Vaynerchuk, Jill Conrath, Tony Hughes, Tucker Max, and Trish Bertuzzi, along with dozens of other B2B sales and marketing experts. So go to aligned17.com and sign up today. You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to Aligned 17. We are here today with Josh Harcus. He is the Sales Enablement Evangelist at PandaDoc. He's also the author of A Closing Culture, and he's become an incredible friend of mine over probably the past 6 to 8 months. So Josh, really stoked to have you today. How are you doing?
Thanks, man. I'm doing well. It's definitely I think right now everyone's really desperate to get this answer figured out because it seems like everyone going into Q2 and Q3, it's like everyone's struggling to figure out where these leads are going to come from and where these deals are going to come from. So I'm excited. I'm pumped to talk about this topic in this summit for sure.
I love it. So Josh, tell us a little bit about, just to give the folks that maybe haven't read your book, are not familiar with PandaDoc, give a little bit of context. What are you doing at PandaDoc? Tell us, briefly, high level, what's the book about, and then we're gonna dive into this.
Sure, absolutely. So the book actually, I'll try to do a quick sum up. And if you've had the opportunity to listen to James's podcast, I highly suggest it. I've been super fortunate to be on that show a couple times. We've talked kind of about my journey. And as these things come out, I highly suggest you check out some of those episodes because I go in a lot more detail than we probably have time for today. But basically, came from the agency side, working with a lot of great clients. And really, at the time, we were a marketing agency, working with HubSpot a lot, kind of in that HubSpot ecosystem. And one client in particular, we hit record-breaking numbers, basically like case study numbers on the marketing side, doubled their new inbound marketing qualified leads, so increased MQLs by 100% year over year, and we got fired.
Wow.
So as some of you marketers can attest and can relate, and especially of those who are directors or managers, there was no alignment between the sales team. And so all these all these leads were falling flat, all these MQLs were falling flat and not being serviced, not being sold. And the outcome was no increase in revenue for the client, which then led to them saying, hey, let's go ahead and part ways, even though it was a smashing success. So that's what kind of led to us really re-looking at the way we had everything organized, re-looking at the way we were doing business, and a book was kind of the thing that came out of it. So A Closing Culture is all about the alignment between marketing and sales, the lead handoff, and making sure that that's done really, really well. So that way the team can run like a well-oiled machine and the company wins at the end of the day, and so does each person who's involved because all the individuals are hitting their quotas, everyone's hitting their goal numbers, all their KPIs are in line, all of that. So so that's the book. What I am doing now at PandaDoc is I'm heading up our sales enablement initiative. As a platform, we sit very, very well in the sales enablement space. And being a platform that people can utilize to deliver enablement to their sales team. A lot of people say they're the one size fits all, everything you need to do around sales enablement fits in this platform. That is neither true, nor is that the case for PandaDoc. So PandaDoc is an amazing platform, great tools, but sales enablement really is a bigger thing that goes way beyond just tools. And sales alignment is a huge part of that, sales and marketing alignment. So one of the things that people don't really realize, just kind of quick tangent, quick side note, is that they always think of marketing and sales alignment and that being the main thing, whereas sales enablement realizes that sales is in between billing, they're in between customer support, they're in between marketing, they're in between customer success, all of these different departments. And so really getting them aligned with everyone, not just marketing. And here I am, I'm a marketer by trade. I've been a marketer for 9 years. So all my marketing homies out there, but it's really getting them aligned with everyone and the whole organization benefits.
I love it. So Josh, you mentioning sales enablement there. I've heard the term sales enablement a lot. I think a lot of people, get how sales enablement is tied to alignment, but talk to us for those that maybe don't have a clear understanding. They've heard the buzzword, they've heard sales enablement being talked about. What is sales enablement and basically, why should you care?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So really, to underscore this, we're actually going to break this down in the whole presentation today. And so I'll give you a quick definition that will also appear in some later slides. But really, the definition of sales enablement, and it's hard because everyone's kind of making up their own definitions, but this is the truest definition out there to date, including, even some bigger known companies who will remain nameless are sourcing the definition that the agency I worked for and now that PandaDoc uses as the definition for sales enablement. And there's some of the thought leaders in the space. But really, what it is at the end of the day is it's enabling your team or empowering your team to sell by providing a SMART goal. For those of you who know the SMART acronym, you know what I'm referring to. For those who don't, Google it. A SMART goal, a process, a written, documented process. The phrase we like to use is we want to get everyone in the company singing from the same sheet of music. And a lot of that has to happen with a documented sales process so everyone knows what we're talking about.
Yep.
Systems that help you accomplish that sales process. Document this can be SLAs, service level agreements between different departments. I'm willing to do this if you're willing to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So far we've talked about goal, process, systems, and now everyone's favorite topic, technology, content, and then lastly, culture. So it's really those main things, and that's goal, process, systems, technology, content, and the last one, the sixth one is culture. So we're gonna kind of jump in today and really talk about all of them up until culture, because that's a whole topic on its own. That's a whole we could do many talks just about that.
Great.
And then also I suggest reading the book as well, because it does get into that. But kind of as we go into here, basically what we're going to cover today is the main metric that I think determines whether or not your team is enabled or whether you have an aligned sales and marketing team. And what that is the 5-minute follow-up. So we'll jump in a little bit more about what that means to have a 5-minute follow-up. But first, let's go ahead and just go into something I recently experienced. So I was walking down, I was walking in, and I was a little bit blinded by the lights. These sliding doors had just opened, and I was walking into this place, and these lights are bright, and my feet are slapping on the cement. Recently, polished cement concrete. And I was walking in, there's support was over to the left. There was a long line of people returning things and trying to get things sorted out. But I was on a mission. I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was there for. So I was walking in, and I knew I needed to get a fastener recently for this mirror. I was trying to knock out a honey-do list. My wife was like, "Hey, can you just knock some of these things out?" It's been months, as many of you know, with honey-do lists, how things can add up. So I was like, I just need to get this taken care of. And I was like, okay, I just need these fasteners so that way when I hang this mirror on the wall, it stays in the wall. I don't want to have to go back to the department store to also buy, a broom and dustpan to clean up the mess afterwards as well. So I'm going from aisle after aisle after aisle. And I'm just walking through all these aisles, and I cannot find a thing. And we're talking like I went by hardware a couple times, which I thought that's where it would be. Now I'm in lumber, and I'm like, okay, there's no way that this is in lumber. And I'm just walking from aisle to aisle to aisle, and I just need help, right? I just need someone to tell me where to go, which ones to pick out, whatever it is, I just need to find them. And I kind of found an area where some of the fasteners were, but honestly, they didn't seem right. And I just wasn't sure if it was the right ones for what I needed it for and all that. And I couldn't find anyone in the orange "May I help you" Home Depot shirt. And by the way, I don't own Home Depot stock. This is no shameless plug or anything like that. I've just unfortunately spent a lot of time in Home Depot. So, what's wrong in that situation, right? I'm not being helped. Like, that's really the core of all of it, is I don't have anyone assisting me. And it's been about 15 minutes. I've been walking around and I'm pretty much ready to give up, and I'm about to just leave the store. Well, that is exactly what every lead feels when they are on your website. They can't find information they need help with. And they even go as far as submitting like a contact us or please help me or whatever form that you have available on your site, is they just need assistance. So the sooner you have someone contact them, the sooner someone maybe runs up, slightly jogs, shows that they're showing at least a little bit of initiative. They do like a little hop skip like you do when you're crossing the street to tell a car that you're actually walking faster than you are. The sooner someone had done that to me, the happier I would have been. And that's after 15 minutes of being in the store. What do you think someone's going to do when they're on your website? We're told that people jump off a website in less than 1 minute if they can't find what they're looking for. I've heard up to 7 seconds is how much time you have on a website, and like 3 seconds is the average time someone spends on a website page. So really for us, like the first thing we need to do is say, okay, you have two types of customers that are coming towards you. You have customers that are just walking in and they have their list and they kind of know what they want, if we're sticking with this store analogy. And they kind of know what they want. They're just kind of browsing. Maybe they're price shopping. Maybe they really have, Amazon pulled up on their phone the entire time and they're just doing some price checking and before they buy a bunch of stuff, whatever. Then you've got other ones that are like, look, I just have to have this solved now. And I'm willing to spend whatever. I'm willing to do whatever. I'm willing to talk to whoever. I just need to have this solved. It's a huge issue. So using and spending the time to get the right leads to the top is very, very important because it'll help you determine on who you should prioritize. That's always going to be an issue. If you don't have leads now and you start doing the right things, especially probably a lot of things you hear about in this conference and other conferences, just wait. You soon will be at that place where you're getting a lot of leads. So how do you determine which ones to talk to and which ones you don't? At PandaDoc, because our platform has so many different uses and is so versatile and everyone needs help with contracts and automating that whole process, we get around 1,600 trials a day.
Wow.
Which is just crazy. No one can call that many leads.
Yeah.
So backing up from that and saying, okay, how are we gonna determine with some kind of a rating, which leads we need to call and how do we get on the phone with them very, very quickly? So let's go ahead and dive into, so that's kind of the premise of what we're doing. These slides, by the way, we're going to go into a case study and we're going to kind of breeze through it because we don't really have enough time to pick apart the case study, but these slides are for you. These slides are for you to sell to your team and basically walk your team through this importance. This is kind of my gift to you, so to speak. So these are all available below this video. Also, you can get them at bit.ly, so bit.ly/aligned, and that's a capital A aligned, and the number 5 MIN. So aligned 5 MIN. And we'll talk more about that for those who are listening in. That can be a really helpful resource so you can get them there.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure. So how am I doing, James? You want me to go over the agenda here, or should we just keep jamming?
Yeah. So if you're watching this right now, you can obviously see it in front of you. If you're listening, what we're going to be talking about, we're going to talk about the current state of sales follow-ups. Then we're going to talk about the reality that you're losing money. You are leaving money on the table. Josh is going to explain why that's the case, and how that's directly related to sales enablement and essentially sales and marketing alignment. And then he's going to walk through how do you achieve the 5-minute follow-up. And then he's going to talk about what sales enablement really is. He's touched on it before. He's going to dive deeper into that later in this session. And then he's going to talk to us about the 5-minute follow-up IRL. And so, Josh, let's just dive into the current state of sales follow-ups.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it can sound repetitive. That's the joy of working in a space. Oh, we'll go back one there. Whoop. Computer froze for a second. There we go. So this can sound very, very repetitive and can even be like, wait, didn't we just cover some of that? But the reality is, that's what you get when you're working inside of a very repetitive buzzword like sales enablement, where it's kind of like the act of selling and helping someone. But anyway, so Here's the reality. So this is a great Harvard Business Review study that a lot of you have probably actually already seen some of these screenshots of some of these graphs and some of these same stats. But I don't know if anyone has maybe broken it down very, very well. Inside Sales did a great job with an awesome infographic where they broke this down. But let's just go ahead and go over this really quickly, just so you understand the importance of it. So 26% of companies respond to leads in under 5 minutes. This is back in 2011. That means 73.9% let you wander around the store forever, basically, because you've already left at that point.
Yeah.
So kind of to lay this all out, and we're going to break this down a little bit more in some of the other slides, but this I think is a great overview right here. You can see that enormous black section. That's people straight up who do not reply.
Wow.
So there are 22.8% or almost 23% of companies who never reply to inbound leads.
Wow.
One of the greatest things about this is you can think and realize, you know what? 22% of my competition most likely doesn't even respond to the leads.
I love it.
When we go in further, we can see that the way it's broken down is almost half. So 20, well, yeah, we'll get into this anyway. We don't need to break down by each percentage point, but basically only 26%, as we talked about before. So really only a quarter of the entire ecosystem is actually responding to leads under 5 minutes.
Wow.
The average response time is 42 hours. Crazy difference. Crazy difference.
Okay.
So
because of that, so now we're going to be talking about you're losing money because of that. Or clearly, I mean, I'm assuming that's where you're going with this, but so talk to us about what, that obviously matters because the green stuff in our pocket is impacted. So talk to us about that, Josh.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. And you'll tell pretty quickly, like even by the way that this is something I'm super passionate about. Quick backstory. In 1 year, we 6x'd our revenue because we started calling leads within 5 minutes.
Wow.
So that's just a quick flashback as far as a case study goes. And this case study is available on HubSpot's site. I think I have a slide calling it out in a few minutes here that we'll be able to talk it through a little bit more. But let's talk about why you're actually losing money. So the reality is it's not that you're losing money from a standpoint of it's invested in a certain way and you're just calculating the investments and maybe it doesn't have as good of an ROI as other places. You're straight up burning cash, like absolutely dousing it with gas and just lighting it on fire. And the reason is because you spend so much time, effort, energy, money, resources, time, you name it, on building an inbound funnel. Now, inbound can be done in many different ways. It could be because your customer service team is so good at what they do that you get awesome referrals. It could be that you have really, really good content that's providing awesome value. It's the way that a lot of us do it because it's so scalable, and you're getting inbound leads that way. It could be that you create a tool that's helpful, whatever. Either way, you've done something to earn the attention or this draw in where these leads are coming in. And just as we just covered, 22% of companies, I mean, obviously, if they exist, that means they're doing something right. So 22% of companies are just letting this cash burn and letting all of this effort burn because their return are these leads. Their return on investment, their ROI are these leads, but they're just not even calling them, which is nuts. So this right here, I think, is one of the biggest things to hone in on. Is it's not as much an issue of budget. It's not as much an issue of we don't have the right resources on this. It's more of an issue of, guys, we're honestly leaving the faucets running and our water bill is really big. So maybe just hypothetically, could we turn the faucets off and correct some of this leaking? And then maybe we wouldn't have as big of a water bill. Like maybe we should actually figure out what to do with these leads. And that's it. Like that's all the discussion is.
Yeah.
Like even calling them within like 4 days is better than not calling them at all, And so, no, it's still horrible and your competition has probably already called them, but still a good thing to keep in mind is just moving towards the direction of getting your team enabled, you're already going to start saving money, which is crazy.
Can't you do this? I know we've done this simply with automation. Like when you fill out a contact form on our website, I mean, it's less than 5 minutes because it's less than 10 seconds because it automatically triggers in our marketing automation to send them an email. And the email doesn't look like it's a simple text. It's literally like 2 sentences, I think, that says, hey, we'd love to connect with you. Here's a link to our calendar if you want to chat. But if you have another question and don't want to jump on a call, just reply to this and we can take it via email. So, I mean, that's how we've hacked it. Are a lot of people they just not know that they can automate that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Frankly, yes. I mean, a lot of us probably on this that are watching the summit are most likely very savvy. We have to remember that there's a lot of businesses out there that don't have the privilege to watch and be a part of your Align Summit, James, and are actually seeking out solutions. But the reality is, yes. I mean, really kind of to get to that place, what you really need to do is sit down, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but just kind of to come off that point, because that's a huge point that you're making, James, is just sitting down and literally just drawing out the process on a whiteboard, on a piece of paper, on a white table, whatever, maybe not use a permanent marker. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do is cool. But really just kind of drawing out the process and figuring out, okay, here's the process. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the lead flow journey or whatever you want to call it. Don't make it complex. Just make it however it exists today.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, cool. Like, where are our bottlenecks? Where are these? Oh, okay, there's a lot of people that submit the request form, but nothing happens. Okay, so that's a bottleneck. Everyone's just sitting in there. Is there something we can do? Oh, wow, we have MailChimp, or oh, yeah, we use HubSpot, or oh, we use this, or, we use Autopilot, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's like, okay, cool. We can actually set up a sequences to go off of that, or, we use a sales loft template or whatever. But one of the key things to keep in mind is the easiest way to get in touch with someone is to call them. And if they've filled out that website form and you call them within 5 minutes, you can actually get in touch with them very, very quickly, way before your competition does, and answer their question right when they have it. And also start to undo some of the pain points and issues that they might have that you can help solve.
Got it. Okay.
So this is the case study that we're going to go ahead and just breeze over. There's some great information in here, but just to make sure that we're kind of on the same page, I'm going to hit a couple key points though.
Yeah.
Here's kind of the key point. So after you review that case study, and just kind of, I'll leave it on here for a second. Basically and for those that are listening in, one of the slides here says it shows a whole graph of likeliness of, basically who's going to become qualified based on response time. And you're 21 times, not percent, big difference there.
Big difference.
Yeah, huge difference. You're 21 times more higher to qualify someone than within 5 minutes and at 30. And then when you actually go to the next day, which is, our 24-hour cycle, you're 1,000 times more likely to close them as new business if you call them within 5 minutes than if you try to call them the next day.
24 hours later. That's insane.
And if we take the average, it's 42 hours. So huge success here. Huge potential here.
How do we execute it? I talked about how we do it with, we set up our marketing automation, but there are obviously, there are other ways to do it. How does this happen?
Yeah, great point. So very quickly, we will get into talking about technology just because of the nature of, if it's not instant, if it creates too many manual processes, it just won't happen. So a lot of us kind of have this picture in our mind. And for those that are listening, the picture I'm showing is a picture of a woman sitting by a switchboard, like anxiously waiting on the phone to just switch to the next thing.
Yeah. And
we can think of our sales team like this when we hear 5-minute follow-up, and we think like they're just waiting there for a lead to come in, and then boom, they're on the phone calling. And we know that this is just not the way that it really works. There's many things going on. Yeah, there's just a lot of things going on. So let's first jump into a quick matrix here. And I don't mean this matrix. I do mean a 2x2 matrix. But basically, the two things that we can break down are activity and structure. So a sales team can be broken down by, what is the level of activity they're doing, and then what is the structure that they have inside their organization. When you're starting out, you're at nil. You have zero activity, you have zero structure. You're trying to figure it all out, try to figure out, where do we go from here?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty quickly, though, a lot of companies, they start to get some activity, but there isn't really any structure because people are like, hey, we just need to do more. And so it quickly just turns into chaos, where you don't have any structure at all. People are going around. And then it seems like they can kind of do this wave where they go from straight chaos to, we need to tighten up everything. Everything needs a process. Everything needs an outline. Everything needs a how-to doc. And so then it quickly turns into a ton of structure with not much activity because you're basically bottlenecking your sales team from actually doing any selling, because they have so many admin tasks. And that's what we call ignorance because you're making a lot of decisions without data. So our goal, obviously, is to have a lot of activity and have a good amount of structure to make it predictable. So we want to go from here, right? But as we just discussed, a lot of companies do kind of this route to find it. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and talk more about how can we make it predictable. So what sales enablement really is. And a lot of this to build up, a lot of this to talk about these kind of things, this is all giving you the right tools so you can turn around and sell it to your teams internally so everyone can be on the same page. So sales enablement, it's a noun, it's the act of any enabling of a sale, giving a sales team the ability to sell by providing the goal, processes, systems, technology, and content. And recently,
culture.
As we already told you, we added culture. But this is kind of, for these slides right here, we wanted to keep it very concise to increase the sales organization. So that's a great case. That's a great definition. Definitely suggest you using this as you're moving forward, because if not, you won't cover all aspects. So goal needs to be SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound. A good example of this, we're going to kind of breeze through some of this so we can get into more of the discussion back and forth, whatever you feel like is appropriate at the end. But basically, this could be something like, for a sales team, $175,000 in new revenue sold by January 31st. You'll either know whether you hit it or not. Based on historical numbers, you'll know whether that was a smart move to make that goal or not. And the same goes for me. Here's a little bit more of a better marketing one, or more around marketing and sales alignment. 80% of MQLs called within 5 minutes by January 31st.
Got it.
Process. Here's a sales process that has worked with every single organization we've worked with that doesn't sell a transactional sale. So the only difference is each stage, as you can see here, all these stages do not necessarily mean calls.
Okay.
So that's one misconception that a lot of people have. So you might be able to actually get through several of these stages within one call or two calls, and it might actually take you several calls just to get through one stage. The biggest rule of thumb is the larger the price point, the longer it's going to take to actually get through the sales process.
So for the folks listening to this, that process is identify, connect, explore, advise, present contract, and then post-close, which is a sales handoff.
Exactly. Thank you, James. Appreciate that. So then getting into this, when we look at how the buyer's journey kind of overlaps, the buyer's journey fits right into these stages. And the buyer's journey is awareness, consideration, and decision. And for those of you, many of you have not heard buyer's remorse added into the buyer's journey, but really that's huge. And we see that with clawbacks, and we see that with people churning and people not being your customer anymore. So that's why the sales handoff is such a key role inside of that. The 5-minute follow-up, what we're talking about, fits right here under the connect stage. So for those of you who are listening in, this is the second stage in the process. Basically, to just use normal human speak, you've identified certain leads that you think are a good fit, or which ones are an MQL, or you've made that criteria, they've come inbound, and now you've called them within 5 minutes. And so you're connecting with a lead. So that's why that's called the connect stage.
Got it.
So to do this effectively, though, you need systems, because you need to be able to, and everyone always thinks when they hear this, they think of technology. Reality is systems are actually just 1 to 2 pages on what is the thing you're trying to accomplish in this given moment. Is this a 5-minute follow-up? Okay, well, if this is a 5-minute follow-up, here are all the things you have to do as a salesperson to effectively do that. Is this a lead handoff between marketing and sales? Okay, well, maybe that's an SLA document of what we're agreeing to, whatever that is. All of these fall under the system documentation, which is really, really helpful. From there, then you can say, okay, now that we have it all documented, and the easiest way to think about systems is if you only had a phone, a piece of paper, and a pencil, how much could you get accomplished? Like those are the tools you have to use to do your systems. So now that you have that done, now let's talk about how do we automate it? How do we make it more effective? So what is technology? Technology are tools that help you automate or streamline existing manual tasks or processes.
Okay.
For those of you who can see this slide, there's two words that are bolded: existing manual. That means it already exists.
Yeah.
The biggest misconceptions when you're aligning your two teams is that tools are going to solve for the lack of process or the lack of systems that you put into place. And as all of us are probably nodding right now going, yes, I've totally felt that pain. That sucks. I totally know what you're talking about. This is why. What technology is not, and a lot of you are like, yes, we already get it, Josh. You've already nailed this home. But just so we can make sure we go over it, it is not the answer for everything. It does not create process. It does not help keep you organized. It can if you do it right, but it does not itself actually keep you organized. You still have to practice the right protocols, get in the right habits to stay organized.
Yep.
It does not automate the sales process. This is a massive misconception that a lot of people have. People think, well, if I have tools in place, it'll send follow-up emails, it'll send nurturing emails. And as many of you can attest, how happy are the sales guys about those nurturing emails that are being sent on top of their emails that they're sending? Yeah, exactly. Not so much, not so excited. And above all else, it will not close the deal for you, is what I meant to say. Technology does not close deals. And that is a key thing to keep in mind. However, all these things can help. The last piece is content. We won't go into too much of this, but basically content can be anything that's externally facing, like an ebook that you send to a lead to help them understand, or some FAQs that they asked and the answers that they need, or it could be internal documentation that helps your team understand how it all works. Let's just take a quick pause. James, how are we doing on everything?
Yeah, so we're going a little bit over, but this is phenomenal. So I think we're going into this home stretch. Since you're giving the slides to everyone, if we could just, I think, going through this last piece, I definitely want to get through it because the rest of this has been so quality. So we'll try to get through this last part pretty quickly. Perfect. And then we'll close it out.
Perfect. Awesome. I think I might have overshot how much content is going to be here, but anyway.
All right. So the 5-minute follow-up IRL. Yeah. What is IRL?
So IRL means in real life. That's a computer lingo for in real life. Thanks for clarifying that, James. I think that'll be helpful for a lot of people. So let's do the 5-minute follow-up in real life. Like, what's this actually look like? So let's kind of break it down. So again, here's where it fits. You've got a lead that's come in. They're at the connect stage, and now you're going to call them. So let's kind of recap. Sorry, I'm having some issues with the lag here of jumping back and forth on the slides, but let's go ahead and jump in and discuss, like, basically to combat a bunch of misconceptions around what this lead is feeling and am I going to be annoying or am I going to be bothering this lead by calling this person? Let's just talk about where this lead is.
Yeah.
So again, using the analogy and talking through the story that we talked about earlier about the aisles, where is this lead? Basically, we can all sum it up by this lead. Me as the lead, I need help now. I want you to call and answer my questions right now. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you show up at my door. That'd be a little creepy, but I just need help. So help me. So how can we actually make this work? So right now we're showing a flow chart. Basically, the flow chart, I'll just talk it through because it's actually a lot simpler to just talk it through than even the way it looks. But I think it's a helpful diagram. So lead fills out a form. They're entered into whatever CRM you're using. In these examples, we have the HubSpot CRM. If you don't have a CRM, shameless plug, it's free. So I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Whatever. That's totally up to your choice. Whatever you want to do. So lead comes in, and then basically a confirmation email goes to lead that, hey, we got your request. Blah 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 blah. You have a filter system, a scoring system, especially if you have a large volume of leads, that helps filter which leads are MQLs immediately and which ones aren't.
Okay.
If the lead is an MQL, then you would actually have the confirmation email get sent out, and it would include a scheduling link, just like you said, James. I think that's a great call. It's an awesome way for people to select when they're available. Maybe they were available for that 2 minutes that they requested help. But then, you called them within 2 more minutes, so you still called them within 4 minutes, which is awesome. But they're already on to something else. So maybe they do want to schedule a time, and they can select that from there. Then we jokingly say that we sent out a woof. For all of you Office fans, the TV show The Office, hopefully you get what I'm referring to. For those of you who don't, I'll explain it real quick. Basically, a woof in the TV show The Office is a mass message that goes out, and every way you could possibly be notified, you're notified. So the fax machine goes off, your phone goes off, you got your computer's dinging in, you're getting calls directly to you. So jokingly, that's what we do. What that actually looks like, one of my favorites is a Slack notification.
Okay.
So a Slack notification is awesome. People are pretty much living in Slack already. So having that set up, you can set that up most likely with whatever system you're using, whether you're using HubSpot or any other CRM, and then you can set that up with Zapier as the middleware that sends whatever notification to Slack.
Got it.
So highly suggest you set that up. Again, what this looks like is notification, claim. So a salesperson comes in and says, yep, I've got this lead. This is a great way to do it, by the way, is just to send it to an open Slack channel. Do your research. Okay, I've got this lead. I'm calling James. He's awesome. He's letting me go over all my time for this presentation. And I've done my research. Boom, I call him. We get on the phone. I document all of my notes. I qualify him. So for those of you who are listening, and I'm going down a list of things you need to do: notification, claim, research, call, document, qualify. Yep, James is awesome. He's ready to go. All right, let's go ahead and schedule our next meeting. Really quickly, if he is not qualified, you obviously will not schedule another meeting with your prospect.
Got it.
Here are some quick tools that we've used and I've used in the past. For those of you who are listening in, those tools on the notification side are HubSpot, Slack, Messenger, Gmail, and Zapier. And then on the research side, and we can talk another time about how PandaDoc fits in on the research side, but PandaDoc, Ghostery, Accompany, which is ACCOMPANY.
Okay.
Site Alerts, GrowthBot, which actually has a new logo now, and Wapalizer. Those are some great tools to use, especially if you're selling anything in the software online space. So yeah, we can the rest of these slides will go into some more things about like scripts and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, let's go ahead and pause there.
Yeah. So Josh, this has been fantastic. If there's somebody watching this and they want to go deeper on some of this stuff, obviously you shared a wealth of information here. I'm watching this going, oh my gosh, there are so many things that we need to get real clarity on and get definition on, and seeing it the way that you just showed it right there. I think when you know the questions you need to ask, it makes it so much easier. And so by seeing kind of those stages broken down and seeing that, then you could just ask yourself, okay, how are we going to do this part? Like what you just it's common sense. We know, like, well, duh, but it's not duh because we're not doing it. And so, but the first part is identifying what those things are and then bringing teams together. This alignment theme is so perfect for this because getting everybody on the same page. Okay, you know, this is what's happening here. Then this is what's happening here. Then this is what's happening here. So all that to say, this has been fantastic. How can people stay connected with you? Where can they find your book? Tell us all that stuff.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So easiest way to find the book is you can go to Amazon and just type in Closing Culture. You're also more than welcome to go to, I'm trying to remember the links off the top of my head. I just exited out of the slide thing. I was pulling them back up, but there's bit.ly, so bit.ly/closing culture, all lowercase, will take you directly there. As far as for me, I'm at Josh Harcus on any social platform that you prefer. My favorite is actually Snapchat, and that's actually the one I use the most. And I actually have, I would say now, as much personal conversations as I do business conversations on Snapchat. And so, it's just at Josh Harcus on Snapchat, and you're more than welcome to add me there. I'll try to share my screen again so you can see some of those things. But it's not loading right now. But those are the best right now. Is probably there is just add me on Snapchat, add me on LinkedIn, add me wherever.
Yep.
And
we'll just check out PandaDoc at PandaDoc.com and be one of the 1,600 trials for today.
Yes. No. Seriously. Absolutely. And actually, for this group, we do have a special offer for if you're looking for help, if you're trying to figure out, like, I don't know how to get this all set up, like I'm starting to get this marketing and sales stuff aligned, but I'm really needing more help there. If you go to bit.ly, so bit.ly/ and then it's just the first two letters of each word that are capitalized. Aligned assessment. Aligned assessment. That'll take you where you can get a free assessment and a free migration even. And so one of the guys on the PandaDoc team will walk you through and say, here's what you're doing really well. Here's where you can improve around your contracts or proposals or whatever.
Love it. Josh, as always, it's been fantastic. I appreciate your time, man.
Awesome. Likewise, it's a lot of fun. Thanks.
If you're a B2B marketer, we want to feature you on sites like Huffington Post, Social Media Examiner, and Chief Marketer. Every week, we send out a question related to B2B marketing. We use the responses to those questions to fuel the content we write for really popular websites. So head over to sweetfishmedia.com/questions and sign up today.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.